Hello paint nerds. Well, at least I would assume you're a paint nerd if you're clicking on this video, because this is the brand new 2026 Tesla Model Y Performance painted in Tesla's black. Now on this channel, you guys have probably seen many different videos where we go through and evaluate the overall paint quality with many different OEMs. And today we finally get to check out Tesla's Diamond Black. We're going to be going through looking for orange peel and texturation and overall consistency. We'll look through coloration on bumpers versus metal painted areas. We'll stick a paint meter on this thing. We'll look for contamination, dust nibs, all of that fun stuff, as well as sanding marks and imperfections. So welcome back to the channel. Let's jump into it. Well guys, I'm starting off this video in a very good mood. The reason behind that is, if you haven't seen the video, it's already live on the channel. I just finished up my build quality review here with the new 2026 Tesla Model Y Performance built in Austin. And why I'm so excited is because I can finally tell you we've got a Tesla here with exceptional fit and finish. I'll leave that video linked in the description below if you want to check it out. Now here we also have this Model Y painted in Tesla's Diamond Black. This is an absolutely gorgeous color, which reminds me a lot of many other vehicles, black painted vehicles. Off the top of my head, Audi's Mythos Black looks very similar to this in terms of the actual metallic that it has in it, some nice purples, some nice greens, all of that fun stuff. Now you'll see it's a little cloudy here. We'll talk about that in a second because we're going to be going through our full paint evaluation here. So what we're going to do throughout this video, as I said in the intro, we're looking for overall orange peel, texturation. We're going to look at the coloration between bumpers and metal painted areas. We're going to stick a paint meter on this. We're going to look for imperfections such as little stuff like that, some dust nibs here and there. You can see another one right there also. We'll go through, talk about all of that, tell the story here with Tesla's Diamond Black, painted in Austin. So let's start off here going through an evaluation with orange peel. Now orange peel, as the name suggests, a lot of the time paint on mass-produced vehicles has the texture of a peel of an orange. And you'll see this throughout different OEMs. Pretty much every single mass-produced vehicle has varying levels of orange peel. I would traditionally probably put Tesla on kind of below average. Some of their cars are a little bit better than others. Typically, when I say they're not very great, that's typically out of the Fremont factory. That place seems to be an absolute disaster when it comes to paint. 9 times out of 10. I've seen some decent stuff out of there, seen some improvements as of recent, but I've also seen some stuff where it's just like, are you guys literally painting these things in the parking lot? Now this being the brand new factory down in Austin, I'm expecting to see it be a little bit better. So as we look here on the front fender, looking through the lights here, yeah, you can see some overall orange peel, but it's not exceptionally bad. Certain areas like this, you'll definitely start to notice a little bit more of that texture. But one thing I really want you to notice here, you might be able to pick it up on camera here, is just some overall kind of cloudiness. Now, once you kind of see it, it's pretty hard to unsee it. Now, as I move throughout here, you can see how the color gets a little bit lighter and darker in areas. So you'll see areas like this have a lot of cloudiness in it. You'll also see some stuff like this. Now, when we get into our full in-depth review here with our scan grip, that's when you start to notice some stuff like this. So they've actually gone through and rotary polished that. This entire area they've done quite a bit of polishing on as well, so it's not as clear as it probably should look. Now again, this car is actually getting paint protection film from my friend Erica Drive Protected, so it'll be really nice to see that, but I still think paint should be really nicely done from the factory and not have a bunch of weird stuff like that. I'll show you some more crazy stuff on this thing as we go through here. Moving over here to the fender, looking pretty darn decent. Down the side is actually where you see quite a bit of nice clarity. You can still see quite a bit of orange peel in here. It's not bad, but it's definitely not perfect. I would kind of put this probably still slightly below average. And why I say that is there's some weird areas going on here. So again, stuff like this, you can really see it has a lot of very poor texture in this, but then down the side of the doors, it seems fine. So some of the upward facing stuff is a little weird. Stuff like this though, this looks exceptionally nice up here. Very clear paint, very little orange peel. But then you also come back to stuff like this. Now, we'll get into this type of stuff a little bit later later on. So that's actually a dust nib. But this really showcases the difference between flat paint. So you can see they've actually sanded around that. That's flat paint, and then orange peel to the left and right, top and bottom of that. So essentially what they do at the factory, they saw a dust nib here. They took a 1 to 2, I would assume this is a 2-inch sander, hit it real quick, then they try and polish it out. So let's see if they've actually done that. They have actually properly polished that out, but now with that contamination, they've left a huge crater in the paint. So that's one thing we'll talk about a little bit more when we get into our contamination section, pointing out more stuff like that, which causes Tesla to do a little bit more work. And then you'll notice some stuff like this. So as I move around here, I think you can probably see it right there. It looks like a darker spot. What the hell is going on there? Well, pretty darn simple. So clearly they have gone through rotary polish this at some point and then like just forgot to totally finish it out. That's pretty common with OEMs. That's not a Tesla only problem. It's a problem I see from many cars, even things like Porsches, especially paint to sample Porsches. So it's not a Tesla only problem. This is stuff I see a lot, but this type of stuff, not so impressed with, especially when you can see how poorly all of the paint quality is here, or orange peel texturation is. Now back here on the rear deck lid, again, I was saying these areas look really nice. Then you come back here, you start to pick up quite a bit more orange peel. Now the keen viewer will also notice some weird oddities, like that area right there. It's hard to pick these up on camera while I'm looking through it. And right there, those are actually two little dents, but they're actually the opposite way. So what I believe these to be are two little clips here that are actually pushing up. So that's why you'll actually see that here. But again, texturation, not so great in certain areas until you get back up to here. And then it's like really, really nice. Back here on this rear 3/4, you can see a decent clear difference between those two there in terms of their orange peel. Overall, yeah, it's definitely got some texturation in it. Again, the same you would see on, you know, a Toyota, a Lexus. Some might just have less overall orange peel in general, but all cars typically have orange peel. Moving down the passenger side doors now, can still see some weirdness going on here. So clear in certain areas, orange peel in other areas. So, pretty darn interesting here. Now the one really weird thing is the mirrors on these and some other accents here on the Model Y Performance. For whatever reason, Tesla decided that gloss black was the new way to go for performance lineup. They have traditionally done this on Model S and Model X, typically in the plaid variants, meaning that a lot of the areas have more gloss black in them, versus when you get a performance on Tesla or any of the other cars, they typically use satin black. And you can see that here through the mirror trim. They have gone and actually done piano black here. So the weird thing with this car that is very odd to me, first off, the mirrors look very well painted, very consistent texture throughout them, looking very clear. But you'll notice here, folks, it's just a little dusty. They have no metallic. So you can see that's an absolute freaking glitter bomb, beautiful paint, but then this is gloss black. You can really see it there. So what's really strange to me is if you order a diamond black Model Y, you literally have mirrors that don't actually match your paint. Now that's not as big of a deal if you order white, red, or any of their other colors, because those are just gloss black. But I think that was a kind of a miss there on the mirrors, especially the front spoiler, front splitter, I'm kind of okay with. So overall, I would say orange peel, yeah, kind of below average, especially with how inconsistent it is. Because the weird thing is, you know, areas like the front bumper here, man, oh man, are they really clear, very little orange peel and probably slightly above industry standard. But then some of the other areas not looking so hot there. So next thing I want to talk about is actually coloration. Now we talked about that with the mirrors, but typically where I want to talk about this most is actually plastic painted areas like bumpers versus front fenders. So let's stick a light on this. And as you can see, this is supposed to mimic the sun. This is actually called a color match light. And you can see it's really perfect. The only issue here is this has been actually polished, so you can see some of that haziness. If you're a keen viewer, you'll know what that means. And you come down here and that is pretty much perfectly clear paint. So that's the only difference there. Coloration looks 100% perfect. Now I'll put up a photo of some other colors that Tesla has done, specifically Quicksilver, with like a bumper being a completely different color than the fender. This will happen on the front bumper, rear bumper. It's really pretty wild. So let's come back here and also check that out. Now back here, you can see from side to side, looking pretty darn good there, actually looking absolutely perfect. Again, the challenging thing with this review, they have done so much polishing on this car. Again, all of that haziness, I could bring this back in about 3 seconds with a nice polisher, polish that section out, it would look exactly like that front bumper. But yeah, overall coloration looking great there. It's just a little harder to see through there, but the metallic size looks absolutely perfect throughout. And again, it's just an absolute glitter bomb. Down here on the rear bumper, same thing, absolutely perfect. So for those of you tell me pretty much every time that I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about and just make excuses for Tesla and say, oh, you know, my white painted Model 3 and my Quicksilver painted Model Y, you know, the bumpers don't match because it's really hard to do. Well, they just did it here. So completely wrong, folks. And looking back here, again, absolutely perfect. So very good job here on coloration. So if you're worried about your bumpers matching, probably recommend you get a diamond black Model Y here, because this is looking absolutely freaking fantastic. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go around and look for a bunch of dust nibs. So you guys saw what those look like back there. I'm noticing one here, noticing some there, right there. They're very hard to pick out, but typically what that is, well, they're quite easy for me, especially with a lighting signature like this. Typically what this is literally just dust and contamination falling into the paint, either before they put the color on or before clear. Some of them, part of the issue is like that crater you saw back there, if you sand them off, or you have areas like this that are actually in the color coat, and you can see there's literally paint missing there. So that dust nib was actually under the black color here. Then they've gone through and sanded this, and that's what happens there. So now it looks like a rock chip. That type of stuff is not ideal. Up here as well, you can see the same exact thing going on. So I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna take a piece of tape. Every single one of these I find, I'm gonna put a piece of tape there. Now, the last couple of cars we've done from Tesla, I've been seeing this getting better. This one, starting to see quite a few things, but again, making improvements here. I've spent some time here going through the vehicle and looking for contamination, imperfections, things like that. Now, naturally, kind of makes sense, right? We have this thing called gravity on Earth, so most of the time when we see contamination, it's falling onto the vehicle. So as you will notice here, it's very sparse down here. It's also a little harder to see, but this is just in general on vehicles. I found next to no contamination down the doors, so meaning that stuff is actually falling on the vehicle. That clearly makes a lot of sense. Now, it's not to say it's not possible to get it on, you know, areas down here. You can clearly get contamination, dust nibs, and stuff can happen down there. But in general, it's on the upward facing areas. So I personally think, looking here, you can see clearly quite a bit of tape. This is just far too much contamination for a single panel. Now, typically, you know, I've worked on many cars, some Fords and GMs and Lexus and stuff like that. Like a Lexus, you'll see 1 to 2 of these dust nibs on an entire car. And I think that is reasonably acceptable. It's a, you know, mass-produced vehicle. But when you start getting into like multiple per panel and, you know, couple dozen throughout, that seems to be a little excessive. So let's quickly go through these. Again, this is very nitpicky, but my eyes, I can see this stuff from literally standing back here. I can see that dust nib right there. I hope you can see that little white dot. I can see that standing from basically 6 feet back. So you can clearly see little dust nib there. You can clearly see on the front end, if the camera can focus, little dust nib there. Again, the ones on the hood, right there, you can clearly see it. Over here, you can clearly see it right in that hex. Sorry, the camera has a really hard time focusing. Let's try and go 2x zoom. So if we come here, you can clearly see that dust nib. Again, this is the one that was under the actual black paint. You can see the white dot from it. This is going to be really hard to see, but you can see all of those very, very small ones, as I literally put a nasty fingerprint there. There's like probably 5 or 6 in this area that are actually kind of little fish eyes, we call them. And then again, the contamination up here. So again, just the more and more I go around this car, still finding more and more of this stuff, but it pretty much stands out quite easily here. So you can see that one there, very clear dust nib. This side's actually looking pretty darn decent. I could not find anything over here, and I looked through this quite a few times. Actually, nope. I think that's just a speck of dust there. speck of dirt, if you will, not dust. This is probably the worst area back here. I mean, clearly you can see that is literally a freaking crater in the paint. That is completely unacceptable to me. And then again, just the way that they finished that out, so they completely sand it, you can clearly see this circle here, just really doesn't look that good. Then up here, what I was noticing, seeing a lot more of those fish eyes. It's a little hard to pick up that type of stuff right there. And it's just kind of this general area. Now, the weird thing is over here, basically seeing kind of exactly the same thing. Now, you'll see contamination, sorry, hard to film, up here. More down here, another one there. These are pretty minimal, but it's something I wanted to point out because it's interesting. You see a lot of orange peel texture here, and you also see a lot of contamination side to side there. So that's pretty wild. Over here, what do we see? Yeah, some little more in there. You can see that one right in that little light. Again, my eyes, guys, are like freaking eagle eyes. I can see this stuff from just miles away, and welcome to having the sickness of being a detailer. And that is why I feel like I'm validated to do these videos, because I literally see stuff differently than other people. Once you start noticing this though, you just continually look at it. I'm not kidding. I am genuinely 10 feet away and I can see that dust nib from here. And that type of stuff is just with the sickness. So overall, contamination wise, again, I think the hood is arguably the worst with just the overall amount. The driver's side rear 3/4 panel there, that type of stuff leaving an absolute crater in your paint, pretty unacceptable. So I'm going to peel all this off. I want to shut down the lights so that I can show you, some of the polishing marks in here, some sanding marks, some stuff like that. All right, guys, so we've got the scan grip out now, and we will be able to see some stuff here. It's always nice to do this. So when I'm doing paint corrections and polishing, this is how I look for imperfections and how I ensure I'm polishing them out, fixing them. So again, I want to give credit where credit's due. This bumper down here looks pretty clear. It's not perfect. It needs a little bit of a polish, but overall I would say it's pretty good. Then you come up here and start to notice all of those holograms and ghosting and just overall haze. I mean, that is truly exceptional and pretty much unacceptable. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Fully rotary polished up here. This is why we turn the lights off. Now, you will be able to see this out in the sun. It's just very hard to do with all of the light here. That's why we have a single light source. You can actually even see some rotary polishing up here. Holy freaking crap. They did some serious amount of polishing and work to this car, which is kind of weird because Tesla normally doesn't do this. I mean, you can just see how cloudy and unclear and unprofessionally done this paint is, because like down here, this bumper is freaking gorgeous. It's an absolute glitter bomb. And then this type of stuff up here is just like straight amateur hour. I mean, that's just egregiously bad, folks. Damn. Tesla, why are we doing this to a brand new car? Now, I understand the car's dusty down here. You can see some of that, but again, overall, you'll be able to get a good consensus here. I didn't want to wash it because Brandon's doing his stuff with this thing. So, moving down the door here. Oh, look, another spot. Holy crap, man. Okay, so the really funny thing is here, I know I'm going to get the people who are like, well, you have to shut the lights off and use your little lamp to be able to see this stuff. Brandon, who actually owns this car, Brandon is not a paint nerd. He sent me a photo of that on delivery day. You can clearly see it out in the sunshine, and you can clearly see how poorly polished that is here. Look at up here as well. Oh my gosh. Guys, this is straight amateur hour. Absolutely terrible polishing on this. And this is not, I guess, uncommon from Tesla. I've seen quite a few cars that are just like staggering. Most of the time they don't touch them. That's the kind of weird thing. It is just really bizarre. You can see this entire area up here fully DA polished. Again, guys, this is a brand new car. Y'all ask me why do you spend so long doing a full paint correction on a brand new car? I think you can clearly see why, is because we see stuff like this all the time. Now, let me bring you back here. Let's actually open this up a little bit. The indirect light bar is going to screw us. Maybe not. Okay, so back here, as it's falling down. Okay. You can see back here, at least the light bar is off. all of these little sanding marks in here. That is some seriously aggressive polishing going on. So they sanded it. They have clearly gone through with a heavy DA right here, and then they've rotary polished over here, and then you literally have a sanding mark right there in the corner. I mean, just freaking bizarre stuff. Also, isn't it funny how nice and glossy black paint looks until you hit it with a single light source here? It's quite hilarious. So noticing some scratches there, nothing on this side, which is pretty weird. And I think that's kind of the general consensus other than that area right there. So you can see that ghosting haze, that's been polished. As always, these are polished to absolute hell, look like absolutely terrible work. Can see all the way up here. You can also see we've got compound in every single one of those nooks and crannies. Pretty telltale sign an amateur has been here. Man, I really wish these companies would let me come train their people how to properly polish their cars, or like just don't do this. Why are we wasting time making it look like this? This looks absolutely horrendous. I really don't understand OEMs want to polish cars and then polish them actually terribly. Like, this is just, the hood is egregious. All right, so let me turn the lights on here. We know what that looks like now. Let's stick a paint meter on this poor diamond black paint that desperately needs a polish and see how much paint we have left. And you know why I always talk about Instagram versus reality? Again, you just saw how that paint looked. It looks great here, you know, even on video. It's like, wow, it's shiny, it's all that. And then you stick a light on it or take it outside and it just looks terrible. So here we have a paint meter. What this does, you can see this little metal tip on here. So I will set it gently down here on the paint. It will actually send me a reading here. So you can see that is 5.16, and that is mils. That is not millimeters. You do not have 5 millimeters worth of paint on here. Now, for reference over here, this is a little calibration strip. This is 3.94 mils. You can see how unbelievably thin that is. So consider when we're talking about paint, you have clear coat, you have primer, you have your color coat, you've got metallic in there, you've got multiple layers of paint. It is very, very thin. So what I'm looking for here is average consistency throughout. Typically in the automotive industry, we see between 4 to 6 mils. So that sits right in the middle. I want to see consistency throughout. So I don't want to see 5.16 and like 2 mils here and 10 mils there, where we want to see overall consistency. So we'll kind of fly through this. So again, 3.68 there, big difference, 360, 460, 491, 428. All over the place, absolutely all over the place. 342, that is very low, to be honest. Anytime I see anything below like 3.5, I'm like, okay, that's pretty low paint there. 395, 480. Sorry, I want to kind of get through this quick. Can see just how that jumps around. Now understand this paint meter is not literally exactly perfectly accurate, but the way I describe it is, you know, a measuring tape is not going to measure like 1 foot when one from Harbor Freight or a cheaper hardware store is going to measure 2 feet. It's going to give you a general idea overall. But yes, you can spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on different paint meters. I don't think we need to get that granular. This gives us a rough idea. It is literally all over the place. I mean, you just have no idea. And again, the crazy thing, so this is plastic here. I think this is, nope, it's not. The crazy thing is these are painted by robots. Now, robots are way more consistent than humans, right? Or at least we think so. But again, you can see here, you know, 2 mils difference is substantial, especially when we're getting to some are 3 mils difference. That just, it's almost double the thickness of paint or the amount of paint in general in a certain area, which just seems pretty darn crazy to me. So we'll continue quickly down this side. We've got a 510, 485, 519, 521. That door is looking a little bit better, to be honest. Yeah, that's way more consistent. And then you just get like jumps like that. It's just, it's very, very bizarre to me. So I think we've got a good overall feel here on the paint quality. And yeah, So I started this video on a very big high note and very impressed with the build quality, the fit and finish of the Model Y Performance built in Austin. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty disappointed in the paint quality here. Now, I will say most of the imperfections that are in there in terms of the scratches, the polishing marks, we could totally dial that in. I just think some of the stuff that I'm seeing, like, you know, really digging craters out like this over here and leaving stuff like that, and the more inconsistencies in the orange peel texturation throughout, like this shouldn't be way clearer than this here. And this shouldn't be different. I mean, you can clearly see a huge difference between there. That type of stuff is a little weird. And again, I think what's really weird is that Tesla's even bothering polishing these cars, rotary polishing these cars, doing any of that, and then doing a poor job. I would tell you that with any OEM. I really don't understand why they try and do that. It just creates more of a headache. You see spots like that rear quarter panel back there upon delivery. I mean, Brandon was literally immediately texting me and like, dude, what is that? And I'm like, well, that's what happens when they polish cars at the factory and they don't have a professional like me do it. So that's a little disappointing. Now, that being said, the positives here, the coloration is bang on. So for all of you who told me I was wrong forever, told you I wasn't wrong. Tesla can do it and many other OEMs can do it. So coloration's perfect. I think the color on this is fantastic. Again, I think a lot of Tesla people are like, oh my gosh, diamond black. Like, dude, we've had black metallics like this for years on other cars. Finally, Tesla brings something out like this instead of their absolutely horrendous solid black. So a nice upgrade here. But man, if you purchase one of these, I'm telling you, you're planning it on leaving it gloss black. You're going to need a whole hell of a lot of polishing work done to this thing for brand new. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.